Hi there, and welcome to this study in Follow Me. We are in the midst of a series on the topic of living in wholeness, and it's good that you're a part of it today. We have a special guest that's going to be sharing in this time together. He came and shared with us in our church on a Sunday morning. He's the founder of Agora Network Ministries, and his name is Alan Gallant. And I know that there are some very important things that he has to share which can serve you and serve us well in helping us maintain and find mental health.
Having been a pastor for a lot of years, what I am finding in the last little while is people are more open and willing to talk about some of their struggles. Often there's still a hesitancy, but they're taking steps, and that's been at a staff level and at a congregant level. That's been at my own personal level as well.
We've seen it grow in the last 5 to 10 years, and really there has, in my mind, nothing has been out there from a Christian perspective to really allow people to kind of come out of the woodwork with their struggle with mental illness. And yeah, there's no doubt that we need this within the church because there's always been a stigma to all that mental health issue stuff that's out there, but just doing a fantastic job with just connecting and being transparent with their own family and individual struggles, and knowing that there's victory and hope behind that life.
Sometimes we think we can answer all the questions, deal with every situation, and I've definitely realized that I can't do that. I thought I could, but I can't. But I would say to that individual leading in whatever capacity that you need to tap into a resource like Agora, not only for yourself but for the church that you shepherd.
I started my sabbatical in the lowest of low places. I honestly wasn't sure if I was going to go back into pastoral ministry. The stress and the burden was just too much for me to bear. And I was ready to throw in the towel. Since my sabbatical, since working with the Agora Network Ministry, I can tell you that I'm just coming through the best month of ministry that I've had in probably over 5 years at least. I'm no longer on antidepressants, and I feel great physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, and I can't thank Agora Network Ministries enough for that.
Until we get that straightened out, but good to be with you today, and I'm so grateful for the invite to be here today and introduce the ministry and a little bit of why Agora Network Ministries does exist. I stand before you today a stroke survivor. Back in 2017, I had a major stroke. The doctors weren't sure if I was going to live or die. My right side was becoming numb, in which my right side was going to be paralyzed. I didn't have any speech motor anymore. I couldn't talk. And that's not unusual for people that have strokes. But I had my stroke right in the right area of my brain that was targeted in my speech area. Now, I share that with you today because I meet people all the time, every Sunday at our events, and it's clockwork. People come to me and ask me this question: "What part of Quebec are you from?" And they assume this accent is from Quebec. And so they think I'm from a French Canadian, eh? But I'm not. 1 month after the stroke, I was in a restaurant with my wife, and I was learning to use my tongue to form words again because I didn't know how to form a word. I could speak in my mind, but from here to here, I have what's called aphasia. So it's a communication disorder. But she pushed me to talk to this server when she came. And so the server came and said, "What do you want to eat?" And so I started in the broken English and slur and stutter that I had. And she looked back at me and said, she started to speak French back to me. And I said, in my broken English, I said, I'm not French. She said, "What nationality are you?" And I said, "Lady, I had a stroke." And she didn't talk to me the rest of the meal. I think I embarrassed her, but we had a great laugh. So I share that with you because today you might be, scratching your head and say, "What part of Europe or France or Quebec?" Or I'm from Cape Breton Island. Anybody been there before? Yeah, we have our own dialect. And it's not as bad as Newfoundland, but it's up there in some of the little places in Cape Breton. So I share that because today you might listen and wonder what's going on with me. I tell you, I won't pass out, I won't turn blue, but I might struggle with some words or some of my voice structure. So just be aware of that, okay? You all good now? My wife and I are really glad to be with you, and Lorraine is here. Lorraine is our operations administrator. What that means is that she keeps all the staff in order and tries to keep me in without getting in trouble. But that's very difficult sometimes. 20% of Canadians at present have what's called an anxiety disorder. Everybody here in this room suffers with anxiety at times, some more than others. But 20% of the population of Canada suffers with a disorder that needs clinical help. 4,000 people in Canada every year die by suicide. 9 out of 10 of those that die by suicide have a mental health struggle. They may have an illness or a disorder, but 9 out of 10 people that take their lives are struggling with mental wellness. In May of last year, the Canadian Commission on Mental Health stated this. They did some surveys across Canada, and they said this: between the ages of 7 years old, now 7 years old to 18 years old, the attempted suicide of that age group rose 100%. In Sick Kids Hospital in Hamilton, over that same period of time, it rose 200%. I can go on and on today and give you stats, and they're numbers. But these stats represent people, just like you and me. And many of you here today might be suffering with either a mental illness or some struggle with mental health. Across Canada, one more stat. 6 out of 10 people across Canada, due to this pandemic, are now struggling with their mental health. 6 out of 10 people. 6 out of 10 people in this room statistically are really struggling with either depression, anxiety, fear, uncertainty, worry. But here's the other side of this. Many people don't know that. They don't know you're struggling. Because there's a stigma, there's a mark of disgrace. Across Canada, it's getting better. But there's a deep-rooted stigma inside the faith communities, our churches, and Christian organizations about mental wellness, mental health. And our ministry is trying to break that stigma so that you can be released to talk and get the help you need. In 2017, I did have this major stroke. Praise God, He was protecting my body. And I thank God that I can run, I can use both hands and arms. My only paralysis was my speech. So I stand before you today, one of the 7 to 10% of people that when they give the club buster, it works. And so even though my speech came back differently, I stand before you as whole as I can be. Now my wife and my children will differ with me, but I stand here being restored, listen, in my body and my soul and my spirit. And by the way, that's a great place to be. I ended up in the mental health hospital for 10 days. Prior to those 10 days, after the stroke, I was in and out of the hospital to get restoration in my body and in my mind. Because before the stroke, I suffered severely with anxiety and depression and fear. I pastored for 33 years. And in the latter days of my pastorate, the anxiety became so real that many times I didn't want to get out of the bed. But my wife pushed me because I was the lead pastor. I had to go. There are many times I would cry alone and ask God, what's the matter with me? Why can't I think normally? Why am I so down on myself? Why am I so filled with fear and anxiety? Why am I so low in my spirit? I suffered for many years, but I told no one. And I thought just greener grass would be the answer. So I put myself in new situations and thought that will help my mind and my wounded heart, because my wounded heart, my wounded soul was so wounded from my past, I didn't deal with the woundedness. And many here in this auditorium, your souls are wounded deeply, but you don't go there because it's too hurtful. It's too hard to go there. So the stroke happened. I remember saying to God, if you don't restore my body, you see, I believe God gave me a second chance. Because before the stroke, I was going nowhere fast as a pastor, as a husband, as a father, as a leader in the church. I was walking away from everything. I was walking away from the church. I didn't care about the church anymore. I didn't care about the things of God anymore. I didn't care about hurting people. I didn't care to embrace my family as I should. My wife and I were not doing well because the man she married was not the man that was standing before her day after day after day. So I was in a bad place. The stroke happened. I said, God, if you don't restore my body, please restore my soul. And God began to restore the soul of my life. He began to help me rethink and feel and behave the way I should, because people listen to me. God made us in such a way as how you think will determine how you feel, and how you feel will determine how you behave. The Bible is filled with cognitive behavior therapy, because how you think will affect your moods and your emotions. And those emotions will affect your bad behavior or absent behavior. So my body was being restored, and for a few weeks, I was being restored in my mind. I was able to think right and feel right and behave like I should. But I noticed that over time, panic attacks started to happen to me. I thought, I might have another stroke again and not survive. So there was all kinds of fear in my heart. There was all kinds of tension and panic. PTSD was real in my life. It still is today. There are triggers that happen today that when I'm triggered, I begin to sweat. I begin to think about not doing well physically again. So I went home after the hospital stay, and for a month, I wasn't doing really well. I was going down here really fast again, because you see, before the stroke, I was a certain way. The stroke happened, God was doing the work, but I never dealt with the stuff over here. Even though God was restoring my soul, there was things in my life that I had to get right with God and people and other fears that were in my life. So when I was working towards restoration and my body was feeling good, my mind became dark again. And my mind became very cloudy, confused, to the point for 14 days I didn't sleep. My anxiety was so hot, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink very much. And like a baby, many times I found myself in corners or on the floor, wrapped in a blanket, not knowing if I was going to survive this. It scared my wife, my family, and friends. And believe me, I tried to get through this. My wife and others were praying over me. They anointed me with oil. We prayed against the enemy. We read the scriptures. We called out to God to help us. And it was like God was silent. But He wasn't. God was there all the time. But it felt that He wasn't there. I got to the point where I said to myself, if this is my new normal, if this is the torture I'm going to have to face all my life from now until I die, I can't do it. There's no way. So I was thinking how to take my life. You see, the doctor gave me enough pills to take my life. All I had to do was swallow the bottle, and I'd just drift away, because heaven must be better than the hell I was in. But it scared me. And one night, I said to my wife, please take me to the hospital. I can't do this anymore. And she did. The next morning, we went to the hospital, and I ended up in the hospital in the mental health ward for 10 days. And I saw things, I experienced things, but I want to tell you a story. while I was there was a lady. Her name was Susan. And Susan was a defeated woman. For 20 years, she was in and out of mental health hospitals. She was on medication for her mental illness. And I was in this mental health hospital ward with her on the same day. As I came in, she came in. And so we got to know each other. And I would talk to her about the things of God. And she told me one day that she was an atheist. The church hurt her and her family so bad that she doesn't believe in God anymore. But I kept on talking to her about the things of God and my story and how God has helped me. And one day we were walking. You see, in the mental health hospital ward, you can't get out unless they help you, like unlock the door. And so we, in this big room, there was a nurse's station, and you can walk around this nurse's station. It was like the city of Jericho, you know, but the walls didn't come down. They never came down. But we walked and walked and walked and walked and talked and talked and talked. And one day she said to me this. It's something I'll never forget. She said, I wish I could believe in God. And it kind of surprised me. Well, you can. I said, why do you say that? Now, here's the point I want to make. She said to me, because people who believe in God have hope. What she was saying to me, she didn't see hope, experience hope, and hope was far from her. People that suffer with mental wellness, mental health, mental illness, they see only darkness. They see a lot of confusion. They don't see hope. Even as a believer in Jesus, we fail to see the hope that He can bring to us, even in the crisis of our lives. I got out of the hospital. I was doing better, and I got a word from her husband because I was trying to get a hold of her and encourage her more. And he said, I'm sorry to tell you, but Susan took her life a week ago. She wasn't able to find the hope. Her mental health was so bad. There's other factors, and that rocked my world, our world. I share this with you because Jesus Christ is the hope of the world, right? I got one yes. Now, come on, people. I traveled 30 minutes to be here for you to engage with me. Are you ready? Jesus Christ is the hope of the world. That's better. He is. In my worst state, Jesus never left me. But I needed clinical help. I want to read for you. How am I doing for time? Oh, I forgot my watch. Oh, sorry. 5 to 7 minutes? Approximately, like 20 minutes? No, listen to this story, this verse. You know it. Romans 8:28 and 29. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. For those God foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of His Son, that He might be the firstborn among many brothers. And we know something. There's a lot of things we don't know, but there's something that we do know, that in all things, COVID, pandemics, cancer, strokes, heart attacks, death, in all things, God is working for your good. It might not seem that way, but the trust that we have to have is that God says He's working for my good, so I have to believe that even in this mess of my life, mental wellness or wherever it is, God is working for my good, even though it sucks. Oh, sorry if I offend you. Even though it's bad. Let me carry on. But God works for the good of those who love Him. You see, if you love God today, if you love Him with all your might, strength, and heart and soul, and you love God, He's working for you. You see, we read a sign today coming here on another church. It said this. It said, God is always good. We have forgot to be grateful. You like that? God is always good. We have forgotten to be grateful. He works for those who love Him for good in all matters, who have been called according to His purpose. For those God foreknew, for those God foreloved, for God loved you before. For those God foreknew, foreloved, saw in the future, and loved you, He also predestined. You know what that word means? I'm not going to get into predestination. That's Trevor's and Pat's job for you. But the word means this: set a course to the finish. Set a course to the finish. God loves you so much that He predestined you. He set a course for each of you. Listen, you all have a story. It might be good at times, it might be bad at times, it might be ugly, it might be beautiful. Listen, that's why my wife and I wrote this book, The Beautiful Strokes of God. Strokes are not good, but God can take the stroke and the situation and the mental illness and turn it into something beautiful, something gorgeous for His kingdom. You all have a story, and He has predestined you because He loves you to set a course for your story to the finish. And the finish is this. Look at the rest of the passage. He also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of His Son. Why are the times when there's good and bad in our lives? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do Christians suffer with mental illness, mental health? Why do we have to suffer through these large gas prices and all of this junk that's happening in our world? Because He wants to make you more like His Son, Jesus Christ. And if you're thinking and if you're feeling and your behavior is not right, then you'll never become more like Jesus in your going and coming. If you're thinking right, you will be able to think the thoughts of Jesus. If you're feeling right, then you'll be able to feel the emotions that Jesus feels. And if you're able to if you behave like Jesus, then you'll be able to be the hands and feet of Jesus in your neighborhood, wherever you are. Now, I want to close with these things. Mental health is so real. It's something that can sneak up on you and grab you. And if you're struggling today with mental wellness, please don't sit there in silence. Talk to someone. Talk to your pastors, your leader. You have something that a lot of churches don't have. You have a wellness team. Way to go. So encouraging to know that you're on this track, but you have to talk to people. Don't be ashamed if you're on medication. I'm going to write another book, not this one, but I'm going to write another book, and it's going to be called Drugs and Jesus, a great combination. That was a joke, by the way. Laugh. I'm not going to write that book. But sometimes we need medication, and it's okay. I have in my pocket today 4 pills that I will take after this service, and one helps my brain with the serotonin that I need to stay normal, whatever normal is. But if you're struggling today, our ministry is also available to help you. We have been able over these last 2 years to provide support and resources. One of the things, if you want to know more about a story, this book, The Beautiful Strokes of God, is here today, and you can come and don't take it, pay for it first. And you can take the story home and read, but it's not just our story. It talks about how do we handle mental health inside the walls of the church? How do we respond? And we're so proud of this workbook. It's okay to be proud, not filled with pride, but proud. We have one of our team members has developed this workbook that goes with our book. And so you can do this on your own or in small groups. And so it takes you through our story and what mental health is, and talks about a lot of biblical content in here. So if we would come to our table today, you can get these resources. But we have a 911 seminar that we come to the churches to help you understand depression, anxiety, personality disorders, and what a ministry mental health can look like. We have the suicide seminar that we can come in. This is great for young people to be involved with. Talk about suicide, because the rate of suicide among young people right now, as I shared, is going up and up and up. And so they need to talk about this. We have what's called the Building Resilience course. And this is a 6-week course online or in person now in St. Catharines, where you can come for 6 weeks and be educated and skilled in how to help yourself and others in mental health. And also, we have something else. It's gone. But I want to encourage you too, but in September we have a Perseverance Conference, our second conference. And this is virtual, and this will encourage you if you have people that are struggling and that don't want to be seen in person. You can watch this in your home. It's called the Perseverance Conference. How many remember Elizabeth Manley, the Canadian sweetheart? She won the silver medal in Calgary in 1988. She is a figure skater. She's going to be one of our speakers, talking about building resilience. Corey Hirsch, NHL goalie, he's going to be talking to us about his story, but also about how do parents navigate with their children through the mental health struggles that children have. And then we have Dr. Carolyn Leaf. She is a neuro something, and she's an expert with the brain. And by the way, the soul, the inner world of my life, dictates what my brain does. My brain doesn't dictate what my soul does. I hope you understand that. And she's going to be talking about the difference between soul and the mind and the brain. Listen, if you're looking for resources, please come talk to us.